The 2020 Classic Tetris World Championships qualifiers were beyond anything that the scene has ever experienced. Over 160 players competed for just 64 spots in the main bracket this year, playing NES Tetris Online for just 2 hours, trying to get the highest score or as many max outs as possible to determine their seeding. The 64 seeds have been sorted into 8 individual brackets, which will all be playing each other down to a single quarter-finalist over the next 2 weekends, in a first of its kind for the World Championships, all best of 5, all level 18, all double elimination. It'd be impossible for me to try and break down every single narrative, but I'm gonna do my best, and I'm very fortunate to be joined by the one and only Sharky yet again, so I hope you enjoy. Sharky, almost 100-time max outer, probably maybe 100 times max out by the time this video gets out. He has made the bracket in a very prestigious year. It's a huge honor even to make it in, so I'm honored to have one of the 64 players with me here today to analyze each of the brackets, and it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I agree, aGameScout. And thank you for having me on here. Always love doing collaborations with you.
Absolutely. All right, so leading it off this Saturday on Halloween, that's actually your bracket, Sharky.
Yeah, it is. Group B is going to be interesting because, I mean, I think out of the entire tournament, there is 1 or 2 players that haven't maxed out. So everyone's a max out player. And in this bracket in particular, we have Jake, Ninu, myself, and Josh Tolles, who are all 1.2 players. Then we have Paul and Opox, who are 1.1 players, and maybe Tugi. And then we have Sidnev, who got their first max out in quals. This is one of the more scary brackets out of them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sidnev, when he was submitting his info for the sign-up sheet, he had never even gone to kill screen before. He had only gone to level 28. Clutched out his first max out in quals, just straight up walked off. He has the lowest kicker score of anybody in the bracket, which is the tiebreaker score after you get a max out. He had a 661 and then a max out, and he's like, I'm done. I think he's the only player to quit his time early.
Really? He just like said he was done, didn't want to improve on his kick or anything. That's crazy.
He's in good company. This bracket, it's got Jake. Jake was one of the very first players. He opted to qualify in the very first day where people weren't quite sure what the standard was going to be going forward. I remember him being a little bummed out at 5 max outs. People weren't quite sure if all the top competitors were going to get like 6 or 8. I think it ended up working out for Jake in the end. He's one of the top 8 seeds. Gets to be the dragon of his bracket.
I'd say that Ninu is also another great threat. You know, both Ninu and Jake being 1.3 players. You know, since they're seed 8 and 9, they're going to see each other on the opposite side. So that means they probably won't meet each other up until it's like winners finals or, you know, somewhere in the losers bracket if they happen to lose early.
Absolutely. Jake and Ninu going toe-to-toe. Ninu, actually, the Indonesian player, he's never been in a Classic Tetris World Championships. He's never even had original gear until very recently when Jeff Moore and Kim Moore shipped him out an NES console so that he could compete in the World Championships this year.
All the matches, like starting the first 2 rounds, like round 1 and then losers round 1 are just going to be absolutely insane. Everyone's just such a solid player. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm in the bracket, but...
I mean, with double elimination this year, everybody's going to have a second chance at redemption. And it also means that, for example, Jake and Ninu, if they're the 2 finalists in this bracket, one of them will likely have to beat the other twice in order to advance.
If it happens, that's going to be like insane.
Hey, but I mean, maybe if all fortunes work out, you'll be one of those final 2.
That'd be insane. And I'd feel so accomplished this year.
That's where you get into the prize money.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, because top 16. Yeah, so yeah, double accomplishment.
Heck yeah. All right, so Group F, which is going to be going on near simultaneously, it's actually going to be kicking off the CTWC this year, happening an hour earlier on Classic Tetris 2. We have Sam Finch, Brendan, Miles, Salted Sofa, Tetris Time, Anthony, Phantom, Jordan.
Sam Finch, I feel like he's sort of like a player that no one really knows of because he's only had 1 match in competitive, and that was in CTM Masters Masters a couple months ago. I know like in his qual 6 max outs, that's fantastic qualifier. He definitely can show that he is capable of maxing in games. But then again, you also have like Brendan, which, you know, made a premiere on your last recap, and Miles, which also another prominent player. But then you also have 2 really good DAS players in here as well, Salta Sofa and Anthony. Salta Sofa, you know, was the one during the Classic Tetris Gauntlet Open that upset 3 1.2 hyper tappers in order to make it all the way to the finals against Tristop.
And Anthony, of course, an up-and-coming NES Tetris YouTuber. I'm always going to have to root for the YouTubers. He makes absolutely fantastic content. Then yeah, there's so many good players. Brendan, I'm glad I sponsored somebody who did really well in the qualifiers. 5 max outs is amazing. Miles has probably one of the most well-rounded resumes of any player. He's gotten very high scores, at least a 1.1 with DAS and Hypertap.
I think the dark horse for this bracket is probably going to be either between Phantom or Jordan. Phantom's definitely a well-capable player who did really well in previous gauntlet matches and tournaments. And Jordan, you know, haven't really seen too much in competitive ever since he took his break. So who knows, he can, you know, shock everyone, like just maxing out on people left and right.
Yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. Some players had really fantastic qualifiers, but then some other people who are capable of tons and tons of max outs, you know, they just had a rough day. So even if they just slipped in with like a mid 900K, that doesn't mean they're not going to go on a tear in the main bracket potentially.
For Group E, we have Eric, Tegamek, aka Jesper, Huff, Jonas, Red Shirts, Foden, Blank, and Yanni. That's a bracket. Because we all know how Eric dominates in CTM, just getting out of things as like, how do you even tap that fast to survive and then still come back and win the game? Like, what?
Yeah, Eric is pretty solidly considered one of the top 2 fastest tappers in the world. Him and Mark kind of have the title there, but Eric combines that 20 hertz tapping with some serious stacking ability. He held the world record for a 29 start in lines for a little bit, managed to pry it away from Joseph Saley after his year-long reign.
And then Joseph stole it right back a couple weeks later.
Huffaluffagus, he was petitioning to have the qualifiers be average of 3. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to pull out a max out. He was concerned, you know, if he got like a high 900K that he'd be unfortunately bumped down a lot of seeds. Managed to pull out 2 max outs in the last half hour. Super clutch performance. Jesper, oh my goodness, the surprising top DAS player in the quals, 3 max outs.
Yeah, that one was amazing to watch. Like, no one expected that either. I'm pretty sure like he was surprised when he got 3 max outs as well. Even then, like, you have 3 really good DAS players in the bracket. You have, you know, Jonas, Tegamek, and then Yanni.
Jonas, like, this would be a very solid qualifier like any other year. You'd be top 8 seed easy, but this year a max out at a 956K gets you seed number 31.
Like, that is honestly ridiculous. And now you just got to keep on piling on. You got to get like multiple max outs and you got to get a high kicker. So it's like motivating you to like play out majority of your games, especially those off of like 500, 550K transitions, because maybe you might be able to get a higher 900 or, you know, another max out to improve you, bump you up maybe like 2 or 3 spots.
It's insane that a player like Yanni, you know, easily guaranteed player every single year. This year he's slipping at the 63rd seed. This year he barely makes it in, and he got fortunate because a lot of veterans didn't.
So I think the dark horses for this bracket will probably be either between Blank or Redshirt. Blank because in a lot of competitive matches, when you see him play, he seems to be like inconsistent, but he like can really pull off some insane high scores. I mean, he's one of the few former DAS players that has a 1.2 with DAS. So combine that with now the ability to tap and stack higher, he can really take down some terrifying opponents. And Redshirt, ever since, you know, he found out that he's been going up against Jonas, he's been training like every day to try and be the one to be the next Jonas Slayer since Mega Retroman isn't playing this year. For Group G, we have Tristop, Alan, aka Brodendamp, Asta, Ian, Alex Kerr, Matt Martin, Greg Boomcannon, and Hydrant. Tristop, Alan, and Ian, You literally have two 1.3 and a 1.2 player within that mix, and they're all tappers, so that's terrifying enough. And then you have solid players like Alex Kerr and Matt Martin, who are good Daz players. Once again, another really good bracket.
Yeah, Tristop, Alan, Ian, all classic CTM players. Alan, of course, one of the very few two-time winners. Tristop, would it be fair to say that he might be one of the most underrated players out there? I don't think he's ever come close to winning a CTM, but he's been popping off recently, and I think this number 3 seed was quite a statement here, getting 7 maxes.
That's what I'm talking about, bro. Let's go.
Oh yeah, I definitely say that he is underrated. It's like ever since I think CTL season 6, something just clicked with him. Next thing you know, he's just maxing out on people all over the place, stacking consistently on 18. His like 18 stacking is really amazing.
And then Hydrant Dude slipping in. He was the very first qualifier on the first day. Had to play with a suboptimal grip. Misflips, pauses, accidental stuff happening all throughout his qualifier. Still muscled out a 924K to slip into the main bracket. I'm sure that's got to feel good.
Group C, we have Dog playing Tetris, Corion, Nerds, Pepe, Nolan, Terry, Reed, and Mark. Already right there with the first 3 names, that is absolutely scary. Dog, you know, player with multiple 1.3s.
Yeah, this bracket almost makes me sad because either Dog or Corion is not going to be in the top 8. I don't know if it's going to feel right if neither of them are there.
But don't leave out Nerds. Recently, you know, started around nearly the same time I am, so he's like at a year and 6 months of playing. And he is actually one of the few players that has a 1.3 as well. So he is definitely capable of, you know, putting up good matches up against Dog or Corion.
Yeah, and you still got really strong DAS players in Terry and Reed. Reed, of course, who upset Alex Kerr last year. And then you got Mark, probably the fastest tapper in the world, just chilling down there at the bottom.
Group H, we have Dog's brother, Pixel Andy, Sodium, Harry, Laser Monkey, Radmir, Luke, Svavar, and Johan. Those first 4 names, yikes.
Pixel Andy, I think one of the most shocking moments of the qualifiers was when it was revealed that him and Dog are brothers. They had managed to keep it a secret this whole time. 2 absolutely insane players, crazy domination throughout many CTM matches and other competitive Tetris scenes. Never competed in a CTWC, both got 6 max outs. And they were brothers. They were the top 2 seeds for, I think, half the week.
Yeah, until Joseph doubled their max outs. But it's crazy because, you know, when they first started, they had a rivalry. Like, Pixel Andy was DAS and Dog was Tap, and now they're both Tap players. But, like, even then, in the rest of the bracket, you have prominent 1.2 tappers, Sodium and Laser Monkey, who, you know, Laser Monkey has a prominent presence in the cubing community. And then you have freaking the classic Harry Hong in that bracket as well.
Harry almost retired this year. He was about to hang it up, but then the tournament organizers came in clutch. Apparently, they sent him a message at the 11th hour, said, hey, you're one of only 3 players that's ever qualified for every single CTWC. It just ain't CTWC without you. So he said, all right, I'm coming back for another year. So we're super glad to have Harry in there. He's an OG. Hoping to see some max outs from the max out mayor this month.
It's just like, this is just a really solid, like, well-rounded bracket. Only thing is, I don't know too much about Radmir.
Radmir's a cool story because he found out about the Tetris scene, I believe, through Yuri the Professional's videos. Yuri the Professional, somebody who went completely under my radar. I had no idea about him because he exists on Russian YouTube, which, of course, that's not going to appear in my recommendations. That's not going to appear in my language when I'm searching for anything. But Yuri the Professional has made amazing commentary on Classic Tetris matches. They get millions and millions of views.
Начинается крайне напряженная игра в Тетрис. Первый раунд, финал 2018.
Classic Tetris is huge in Russia thanks to Yuri the Professional. Radmir is the first player from that wave of Russians who have discovered the Classic Tetris scene through his channel and has now made it into the main bracket. So I think that's super cool and shows the international nature of the tournament now. It's a real true world championships. Group D, DeAsian, Doge, Fractal, Quaid, the sole representative from Antarctica, Cheese, Scotto, Aaron, and Anomalous.
Once again, just crazy tough bracket.
I mean, yeah, this is so stacked with players who've just never been in the World Championships before. They've been dominating. They've been building their skill online. To Asian, 6 max outs. It's tough to have that kind of consistency over 2 hours and get a 973 as your kicker. Fractal almost pulled off the upset against Joseph, one of the hypest CTM matches ever this past month. Do you know anything about Doge? I don't know too much.
Doge was actually one of the players that had an incredibly hype match up against Tristop for the Classic Tetris Gauntlet Open. In Game 4, he came just short of Tristop with a 980 and Tristop max. And then the very next game, he maxed out and still fell short of Tristop, who just had a higher max out. He's been showing some incredible like competitive matches, but he's gone under the radar just because like no one really knows about him. So when I found out that he got, 4 max outs in his quals, I was excited that he got, a lot of the recognition that he deserves for putting in, all this hard work throughout this past year.
My goodness, yeah, there's other players in here. Cheese was having to figure out an alternate grip for the first hour of his qualifiers because he wasn't able to have his hands in the frame unless he held the controller like upside down up against his chest or something. Still managed to pull out a max out in 912k in that final hour. Aaron, I believe, PB'd in his qualifying session of 2 hours.
Hey! Okay, that's in! That's in! I'm in! I am so sure that's in. That's actually my personal best. Fun fact.
Yeah, he's now a max out player too. He recently got a max after his quals as well.
Oh my goodness. What a month it has been for him, I'm sure.
Aaron and Anomalous are 2 newcomers that we should watch out for. Because remember, Aaron hasn't played in any competitive Tetris yet, which, could also be a downside just because not knowing the competitive environment. Still, it can also be an upside because that means they might not have the nerds, worrying about how good certain players are.
All right, is it time? The final bracket.
Let's go ahead and read Group A. We have Joseph, Richard, Jerpidude, Jeff, Pokenerd, Benji, Alex H, and then the world's best Daz player, Moodus.
Yes, man! Yes! I didn't even have a f***ing wall charge, man. I don't even know how I got that over.
We have a matchup in the first round, Joseph against Moodus. The world's best hyper tapper versus the world's best player. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane. It's the match that has been prophesized since like season 4 of CTL. All we need is Kingsman commentating it and the prophecy will be complete.
Yeah, so Moodus runs Classic Tetris League, which instead of being tournament based for the entire time, everybody plays matches with each other in different tiered rankings over the course of a season. His example match in the pinned comment on his Discord for months now has been Moodus versus Joseph. I believe is kind of a joke. They've never faced each other, never been in a competition where they would ever have to face each other. Obviously Joseph doesn't want to suffer that kind of humiliation before he has to, but he got kind of forced into it here with his 12 max outs. He made the mistake of nabbing the #1 seed.
Even without the spotlight match of the bracket, Joseph versus Moodus, that's still a broken bracket. You have Richard with a 1.3, Jerpidude with like 2k off of a 1.3, and then you have Jeff with a mid 1.2, Pokenerd Benji with 1.1s. It sucks to have Joseph and Richard in the same bracket.
Yeah, one of them is going to have to beat the other twice, provided Moodus has mercy. I guess we should talk a little bit about Joseph's run of 12 max outs. Probably one of the all-time just mind-blowing moments the scene has ever had.
Absolutely insane run. If I'm remembering correctly, he started off that run with 7 back-to-back max outs, like already tying the video that he uploaded like I believe a month ago now of his record of 7 back-to-back max outs, and he did that in quals.
There was some pressure on Joseph because at that point, I believe Pixelandy and Dog, the 2 brothers, had managed to maintain, shockingly, the lead with 6 max outs for most of the week. Joseph was going late Friday night towards the end of qualifying week. People weren't sure if maybe, they were going to end up #1 seeds because a lot of the heavy hitters had not managed to beat 6 max outs. And then his first 7 games has a perfect run. As somebody who's able to max out, what can you imagine it being like to max out like every single game?
I just could just imagine it as like, okay, like this is good, but then as the number like starts stacking up, it is like, all right, I just need to just focus on, I'm pretty sure the nerds would probably be impact because it's like you've already beaten the brothers. And it's like now you have a chance to like literally make history as something that's, you know, going to be incredibly hard to beat, because that just means in order to beat like 12 max outs, if we were to do another 2-hour qual system, you literally have to play flawless.
I believe, yeah, he only had 3 games that weren't a max out, something like that. One of those games was after he got 7 max outs, he topped out with a couple thousand points.
Oh shoot, we got a kicker. Alright, I'm gonna use the restroom. BRB.
Chris Bidwell and Kingsman were dying. They were so hyped for the world record, and then the internet went out for them for a little moment, and they come back and they see Joseph just walking off the screen with like 8,000 or something on, and they're like, what?
Oh, my
Broke
word.
the stream again. This is to break the record.
Maybe he's gonna go do what you said. He got a couple lines in and said, you know what? I'm done. He's just gonna leave it there. That's his
Is he
kicker
really?
score.
Oh my god!
We'll see if that
I was
happens.
kidding, dude! Come on, man!
It's just a really, really difficult bracket with obviously, you know, the favorites being Joseph and Richard. I think that a dark horse here could be Benji or Jeff. Unlike majority of the veterans that have qualified, Jeff was the one that's really been, you know, playing in the online scene and's been like a very strong player in the online scene, you know, holding his own up against well-known hyper tappers like Dog and stuff. And then Benji, of course, you know, defeating Jake and Miles in like Gauntlet back in season 3. That's definitely some potential there for Benji to potentially pull out the same stuff here in this big tournament. Of course, if Moodus doesn't stop them all and just wins the entire bracket.
I think that's the real takeaway from looking at this. There's some obvious favorites, I think, in all the brackets, but I wouldn't count a single one of these 64 players out. Just to get in, you're showing that you truly are one of the best of the world at this point, and it's going to be a show like no other very soon.
I agree.
Thank you so much for joining me this year, Sharky. I couldn't have done this without you. It's impossible for me to keep track of everybody anymore. But one of the things that's really going to help me out in the future is actually a new show that you have recently debuted.
Yeah. So the new show is, you know how they have like Sports Center for, you know, sports and stuff. Well, I was like, hey, with all the stuff that's going on in Classic Tetris, maybe I should make a show like that to, you know, inform people on what's going on. And so my new show is the Classic Tetris Insider, where it does both, you know, provide news and like recaps of, you know, things that might have happened at events, as well as, you know, your top 5 clips that, you know, might have gone unnoticed. So you get to see some like excellent Tetris. It's like a bi-weekly series with some, you know, episodes maybe every week. Just, you know, get people updated on like major events that's happening, like CTWC these next upcoming weekends and stuff. Just so, you know, people know where to go to, you know, watch this stuff. And with this new upcoming season of Gauntlet, there's going to be, you know, like actual team recaps. It's a really ambitious project, but I think that it's, you know, something that the community needed, especially since, you know, most of the information is like concentrated in the Discords, and not everyone, you know, has Discord or is in the Classic Tetris Discords, which I believe there's like at least 20 of them now.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to make this type of content. I've been doing my best to get these monthly recaps up, but that is truly only the tip of the iceberg of the Classic Tetris scene nowadays. There are so many other tournaments, so many players just constantly coming up every month, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them be able to be highlighted on your show. I'll have links in the description and the end screen if you want to go check it out. From what I understand, you stayed up all night, like 30 hours straight or something, working on the last episode.
It was 36 hours, and I think I took like 4 hours of sleep, like 2-hour naps, and then like just went straight back to work.
That's sometimes what it takes to get these videos out. Best of luck this weekend, Sharky, and I'll be looking forward to watching everything fold out.
Thank you, GameScout.